Howdy, Buccaneers and Buccarinas. My name be Captain Yugioh, and well, let's talk about the experimental card. The experimental card showed up this last week here, and we got to finally test out the 3-2-1, or I guess the 1-3-2 format that had been talked about by Blizzard for a little while, that the developers have been working with, and they got to showcase us a little bit of like what that was, and we got to try it out for the first time. I don't know exactly if the experimental card's going to be up still by the time this video goes up, so I would say if it is up, give it a try for yourself before you come to before you come to your own conclusions on the format, or if you don't take my word for it, just play, around in the experimental format if you haven't already, and give it a whirl. In the meantime, don't forget to like the video, and in case you like the content, comment down below if you want to talk about it more. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my content. I do Overwatch videos on Tuesdays, Hearthstone videos on Thursdays, and Yu-Gi-Oh videos on Fridays. So, let's talk about 3-2-1. I really want to try and give this format the credit it deserves, which let's start off with like some of the bigger things about this. Like, shout out to the devs, because like honestly, we wouldn't even have this kind of discussion if it wasn't for them being so willing to experiment with the ideas for their game, with allowing us the opportunity to try this out. So really, just a big shout out to like Jeff Kaplan of the Overwatch team and everybody over there who worked so hard to try and make this format viable in some capacity, so that, or at least playable enough that we could participate in it and actually try it out for ourselves and interpret it however we want. So, big shout out to the devs for that one. Let's talk about the pros of this 1-3-2, 3-2-1 composition of sorts. Probably one of the bigger pros of this is that, well, the times are down. A lot of the biggest problems with the current 2-2-2 system have been notable within the wait times. Usually, like it's been pointed out, support and damage, support and tanks have very low wait times, whereas damage has a typically very high wait time, usually like 7 minutes or longer, on whether that's in quick play or whether that's in competitive. That's just how it is. And this format does remarkably improve upon the amount of time. I mean, that could also be a side effect of this. A lot of players moving into the experimental card away from the other two formats, because I think I felt like I noticed like lower queue times in those formats as well. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit subjective in a way, but I do think, generally speaking, I mean, when every role has about a 2 to 3 minute wait, that's a positive. So, for what they were going for as far as lowering the queue times, that worked out really well. Another positive that we could talk about is that the role, the tanks all get like super charged in this. There's not a tank that doesn't feel like it can't, do something on its own. Like they changed a lot of things about all the different tanks. Like they gave certain tanks like more armor, or replaced some of their health with armor, or allowed them to have some of their cooldowns decreased, or bumped up their shield health in the case of like Sigma and Orisa. Or they gave them like different abilities, like Zarya is able to bubble a group of people, which now it's kind of like, I almost wonder, it's like, why can't that just be a thing in the regular game too? Because like, you just decrease the energy rate like you did with this, but then you give her the ability to energy bubble like multiple characters. You don't have to go full scale on that, you don't have to make it last for like 3 seconds and take up 300 damage, but like, having multiple shields and multiple bubbles, that just seems like it's a cool thing for Zarya, right? Like, that's not just me. And then we got Roadhog, who has now in the 3-2-1 setup, he has like this ability to not only heal himself, but then he lays out like a little cloud bursted area that does damage reduction and heals up other characters, and that's pretty nice. Again, you kind of help incorporate people within a certain area and the like, and that really does help out things, because it keeps people alive, and it keeps people up, and it keeps people doing things. I wanted to give this format a fair shake, honestly. I didn't want to just like go into the experimental card and just try it out on one roll and then just immediately dismiss it when it's, I lose a game and then I say it sucks and then I never give it a good roll again. I wanted to give it a really good shake, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just being biased about it from a particular viewpoint, which is to say, as somebody who prefers the 2-2-2 format, as somebody who likes the way the 2-2-2 format goes, as somebody who likes the way the game is played at certain times right now. It's like, I didn't want to come in being like super biased against it. I wanted to try and keep an open mind about it. But, man, 3-2-1 just sucks. I mean, like, the thing is that they buffed a lot of the tanks, right? Like, and the tanks all feel so much more powerful. Like, Reinhardt can practically two-shot most any character in the game now, like, you know, a few exceptions notwithstanding. Like, he's able to, like, kill most any character within 2 or 3 swings, and that's really, really strong. You've got all this power that goes into it. You've got a hook that's only 6 seconds long. You've got bubbles and stuff. But, like, I think the biggest problem is that the tanks just don't feel like they encompass the role of 2 tanks. And that's super hard to, like, really balance that out. I actually made a whole video that was, like, talking about, like, what I thought about, you know, 2-2-2 and the 3-2-1 experiment when they were first talking about it, and now I'm kind of experiencing the format itself and kind of what some of the changes would be they would make. It falls short to me. I think the biggest problem that I have with that is that even though a lot of the tanks are more powerful in this format because of all the changes they made, they're also just not at that level where they're, like, the same as, like, 2 tanks. I mean, it's not like Reinhardt suddenly just becomes, like, super good because he's got Zarya bubbles. Like, no, there's no Zarya bubble about it. He just is there, and he's doing things, and then this is the biggest problem I find with this format, is that it's so much more focused now on the damage roll that everything else collapses. The thing about the 2-2-2, the thing about the way it is with 2-2-2 right now is that there's a even balancing of things between each of the characters and each of the roles. So it's like, you know, obviously you know what support does, you know what damage does, and you know what tank players are supposed to do. So when somebody is failing within a 2-2-2 composition, then you kind of know, okay, you can look at, like, okay, are we not doing enough damage? In that case, should we switch over to damage? Or is it a spacing issue? In which case, should we switch tanks? Or maybe we're not getting enough healing. Maybe one of our healers should be, you know, switch over to something else. Or maybe is it because our healer is getting dove upon, in which case do we switch a tank out or do we switch a damage out? There's a sort of intricate, like, system of, like, trying to figure out, okay, what's wrong with our team composition and what changes can we make to that composition to accommodate for that? Or what can we do to kind of help along with the team fight in general? With 3-2-1, it suddenly becomes a lot more focused on the damage. Well, I mean, that's just natural, right? But now, the damage characters just go all over the place. Like, take Reinhardt, for instance, right? You've got a shield, and you've got the ability to do a whole lot of damage. You're swinging at 90 in this format. Like, you're just swinging around, and you can 2-shot or 3, you know, within 2-3 swings, you can kill anything. But it's like, things have to get close to you. And all of these damage characters are able to spread out far away from you. And then, you know, your damage characters are spread out far away from you. So who are you protecting with that shield? Who are you protecting with that shield right now? You're not protecting anybody because everybody's all over the place. You can't protect everybody because you've got a Widowmaker all the way over here, Genji's diving in the back line, and then Junkrat's over on the side just doing his own thing. Maybe you're protecting the Junkrat, but, like, otherwise, that 1,600 points of shield is doing nothing. It's not protecting anybody. It's not doing anything for anybody else. It's useless. The shield is useless, alright? That's what it is right now with a tank. You could do Roadhog, right? You could try and do Roadhog with that, but, you know, when you take that breather and lay down that cloud, who's showing up in that cloud?
No one.
Nobody's showing up in the cloud because everybody's going all in these other freaking directions. They're all going all over the place. Nobody is actually in the cloud. So the cloud is useless. What about Zarya bubbles? Well, you can bubble that guy over there, but if there's nobody else close to him, consider the ability wasted because that's when you get the most value. So it's the sort of thing that's like, okay, now you've got you got 3 people, half of your team, just doing their own thing, just doing their own damage, doing their own stuff, just doing all these stunts on their own, and you as the tank player can't support them. You're not even supposed to do anything, because guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna come at you first, right? Because it's like, what else are they gonna do? Go for the supports? Oh my god! They could go for the supports! Because the supports are on their own. What are you going to do with the supports? Let's face it, you could be the tank that protects your supporting characters, and maybe you'll win. And maybe your DPS will be just fine. Except chances are your DPS will not be fine because they're not getting healed because they're getting attacked by damage characters who are then having to be protected by you as the tank player who then has to get healed by the support characters. It doesn't make any sense, right? So, alright, what makes more sense than that? Well, the next thought is that, okay, maybe I gotta play more aggressively as a tank, right? Maybe because all these damage characters are all spread out around the place, maybe I don't need to focus on them. Maybe I just focus on the point and then just dealing damage on the point. And that's what you do. You be aggressive. You get all in their face. You get up in their grill. And then your support characters are way in the back going, hey! Hey guys! Wait for me! I want to participate in the fight too! Well, guess what, you lucky, lucky support player? You do get to participate in the fight. There's a Genji coming at you, and he's dired upon you, and he's ready to stab you! He's going to stab you! What do? Do you A, cry in your sleep? B, try and sleep dart him, miss, then cry in your sleep? Or C, shield bash him, then realize you're not actually doing a whole lot of damage to just the Genji to actually make this all work? Because guess what? Widowmaker just sniped you, and you cry in your sleep. Here's the problem. Here's the problem right now. Every character in a 3-2-1 setup is damage. Every single character is damage. Not just the 3 characters anymore, but you now have 3 damage characters that are really good at dealing damage. You've got 1 super-powered damage character with a lot of health, and then you've got 2 kind of damage characters who are kind of super weak and are basically just super vulnerable to everything else. That's how 3-2-1 plays. You are either 1 really big useless guy, 3 other useless guys who are just doing nothing, or 2 useless guys who are getting dove on by everybody else because there's no protection, there's nothing to help you. You either win really hard or you lose really, really hard. It's a format that really rewards this aggressive DPS chaotic frenzy, which is totally fine if you want to try and do like first-person shooter shenanigans. If you want to do Counter-Strike, go for it. This is the format for you. Welcome to CS:GO and Overwatch. That's what 3-2-1 is. But it just defeats everything that the game is built up for right now. It just completely upends it. It upends the whole system. The maps are not designed this way. The characters are not designed this way. And when they are, some of them have to be retooled so they can fit certain roles. And even then they can't be well designed enough for that. Why does Zarya's self-bubble not help bubble other teammates around her? That would be really useful in the event of a Riptire situation. Why does the Roadhog damage buff not only do 25% when on him it does 50%? Shouldn't it at least be doing a third percent? Why does Zenyatta's orbs not do more damage? Does, the Orb of Destruction not do a whole lot on its own? I mean, it really can't unless, if you're aiming at something. But hey, you're already getting dove on by Genji and Tracer and God knows what else. Who cares about Zenyatta at this point? Zenyatta is a fine spot. Zenyatta's just gotta aim better. Zenyatta's just gotta do better. Zenyatta's gotta just break out of his Zen mode and just go Kung Fu action style on them, right? The format just rewards a completely different play style, and I think that's why so many people hate it, because so many people are just not used to that. They don't want Overwatch to be like that because that's not what that's not what drew them to Overwatch in the first place. That's really not what Overwatch is about. As much as it probably pains some people to hear it, this is not Overwatch. 3-2-1 is just not how Overwatch is designed. It's not how Overwatch is meant to be played at the moment. Maybe the design philosophy changes and, somehow they work it into this 3-2-1 system. But as it is in this experiment, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because, your superpowered tank just can't do enough to these separated characters to be impactful enough. Your 3 separated characters have to do more, essentially, which is ironic because considering there's more damage they can do as 3 separate characters than they could do as 2 separate characters. But then, if any one of them is underperforming, that just means the other team's 3 characters are doing way better. That means they're doing so much better. Like, there were games where it's like, you know, I would be trying to take out this one Widowmaker, and in the meantime, the rest of my team is dead. Like, they can't live long enough. Like, I'm trying to take care of the one Widowmaker, and everybody else is dying otherwise. Like, support's dying because they are not getting that protection. They're open, they're vulnerable, and it's like, they're not playing around to the map strengths, they're not doing a whole lot of things. People are just not accustomed to playing around the game right now the way it would have to be played in the 3-2-1 scenario. They're not used to, like, a classic shooter style sort of game. And that's not what drew people to Overwatch in the first place. There are a lot of people who came to Overwatch who don't play first-person shooters. I should know, I'm one of them. I don't play first-person shooters, and Overwatch was like the first first-person shooter game that really drew me in. And it, big surprise, it wasn't because of the first-person shooter elements. I suck at shooting. Why do you think I have gold in my damage category? See, the thing about it is that, like, does it make more sense to play within a system that's like 2 tanks, 2 damage, 2 support, like assigned roles, evenly split out, where you know exactly how you can work around things, where you can format things, where you can deal damage, deal supports, make space? Or does it make sense to do like 6 DPS, 3 of which are in weird spots because one's got a lot of health and the other 2 are just not damage dealers? Like, I already played formats with 6 DPS. That's what we call Quick Play Classic. Even when you superpower all of the tanks, at best, these tanks are just kind of like 1.5 times the tanks that they were before. And you are upping the DPS characters from 2 to 3. You're having the power of the tanks compared to the amount of DPS you have. You have 1.5 tanks versus 3 DPS, as opposed to right now where you have 2 tanks, 2 DPS. You see what I'm saying with that? Does that make sense? Does this whole thing make sense? Does it make sense to have one big beefy dude that has no ability to do anything and just be a bigger DPS versus 2 dudes that are actually good at what they can do, even if they're not as strong as this one guy, but they actually can do stuff? That's what it seems to me. 3-2-1 plays differently from 2-2-2 dramatically, and that's just how it is. That's just how it is. If you prefer the 3-2-1 style, that's fine for you, good for you. But I don't. I prefer 2-2-2, where it's like I can play characters that feel really good to play, that don't feel overpowered, that don't feel overbearing, or that don't need to be supercharged to break even with like 2 DPS. So that's just me. But in any case, what do you guys think? Talk about it below. I'm out of here. I'm gonna run around or something. I don't know. I'm frustrated. 3-2-1 makes me upset.